Well, happy Rosh Hashanah, everybody. Happy Rosh Hashanah. Happy Jewish New Year's to you all. Let me just make sure the stream is okay here. Yes, it is. Okay, good, good, good. Everything is kobesedek, or in Hebrew we would say kol beseder. Hi, Ann Dillon. Great to see you here. Welcome. It is a beautiful sunny day in New Hampshire. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Hi, Silver Wings. Thank you for being a member. Thank you, Ann Dillon, for being a member. Hi, Karen W. Thank you for being a member, and happy Sunday. Hi to Alicia. Welcome to you. Joel Tilson is in the house. He is our floor person. He's walking the floor, excited with his virtual microphone, making sure that I see all of your questions. Joel is in beautiful Cheyenne. He's an amazing cook, by the way. So I'm sure he will be preparing something amazing in the kitchen while he's helping direct the show today. Hi, Sarah Eschweller. Great to see you. Excuse me. Hi, Pamela Doss. Hi, Karen W. again. Oh, we already have donations. Thank you, Anonymous, for donating to Libya. As you know, we have a crisis happening in Libya. There was drought in Libya and Iraq. It was actually affecting the Euphrates River, Ethiopia, the Sudan, all that area. Drought, drought, drought. Euphrates River is very low. There have been times when the Euphrates is low. There's been times when people have had to migrate their camps, like from archaeological digs. Whole entire cities would move depending on the weather. But it's this kind of came out of nowhere, this flash flooding, and unfortunately, lots of people have been killed. Similar to what we're seeing also in Iraq and other places. 10 countries affected. Also, the earthquakes out of Morocco are up in the mountains, very difficult over there. We also last week raised money for the good people of Morocco. So it looks like North Africa needs our prayers right now, both for the earthquake and for the floods. Some beautiful people, some beautiful food, and hopefully the fundraiser we're doing today can help. Well, hello, Jen, Seattle Book Lady. If you haven't had a chance to like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate if you would do so before we get started. What else do we have to say? Oh, yes. Tell us what you're eating. Tell us what you're drinking. We want to do that. Oh, someone sent me some hearts. Sherry's in the Catskills. I wanted to announce again, we have a book club. Did y'all know we had a book club? So I have received a lot of books in the mail. A lot of people have mailed me their books. I have not opened the book selection for 2024. Excuse me, for 2024 yet. That's because we already have selected all of our books for 2023. We are selecting books of unknown authors that are part of our own community. You don't have to be a member of the Oracle of Whims. You don't have to just if you're a regular member who subscribes and comes here and you're an author and you would like us to consider your book as part of your book club, you would send it to me at the P.O. box we have here, which is 1819 Southwest 5th Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97201. If you would like to see if your book will be selected for our book club. We like books that teach ethical lessons and are focused on healing. So far, the books we've selected have been about that. I think everything so far that we've selected has been for teaching. And so we're now picking Stumbling Toward Grace by Rosalia Scalia. Stumbling Toward Grace by Rosalia Scalia. We get together after Taco Tuesdays at 6 p.m. live on YouTube, and we will be interviewing Rosalia Scalia. Hopefully, she will be able to make it the last Tuesday of the month, which I believe is Yom Kippur is on the 25th, just to let people know. And then the 26th, so it'll be after Yom Kippur, I believe. Yes, it'll be after Yom Kippur on the 26th at 6 p.m. We will be getting together if you want to join the book club. And the book is about healing from trauma in a family. You know, something bad happens in your family, like say an alcoholic parent or something, it can tear a family apart, and how a family can come together and heal. So I like the title very much, that we kind of stumble toward grace, don't we? So I know that Chuck is excited about the book. And yeah, I know you will be as well. Chicken noodle soup. Yeah. There are vegan ways to maximize protein that I'm really getting into. And I'm learning as an anthropologist that this is what our ancestors did. You know, it's like people say, well, I can't digest beans, but I really want to be a vegan, or maybe not a vegan, but at the very least, I want to have as little dependency as possible on animal products. There's a really great solution, and it's so, so simple. If you cannot digest resistant starches, all you have to do is eat bean sprouts. And that way, the resistant starch is gone, but the protein is still there. And so I bought a sprouter. I bought a sprouter on Amazon, and I just soak the beans overnight and you clean them, and then you rinse them, and then you put them in the sprouter, and then you get garbanzo beans sprouted, everything sprouted. And then because you've dropped the resistant starch by 80% or more, after you've sprouted it a little bit, you can then you can puree it and cook it and put it in stews. And that's what our ancestors would do. They would soak the beans and they would soak the grain until it would become this soggy, sprouted mess. And then they would grind it into this soggy mess that would start to ferment into a sour dough. This is how they make bread the ancient Swiss way. And then you might take some rock salt and put some rock salt into it, maybe a little oil, and then it would ferment over time. And that was bread. And very easy on the tummy, right? It'd be very easy on the digestion. So if you are struggling, but you really want to eat those foods, you're worried about the phytates, which can inhibit absorption, you just do it that way, and then you can begin to enjoy more plant-based foods and more grain without side effects. Buy the organic einkorn wheat. I am a doctor, so I might as well. I'm a naturopathic doctor, so I like to share with people. So what you can do is you can buy the einkorn wheat seeds. I think you can get them various different places. And this only has 14 chromosomes. So it's the original wheat that your ancestors ate, right? It has no genetic modification. And then you can also sprout the organic einkorn, just like Miriam in the Bible, right? When they were with their baskets. Isn't that amazing? And then you grind it. And then you add a little salt, kosher salt, you'll be all right. And that was bread. Yeah, the food of our people. And then get yourself some tahini, dip that in. Trust me, you'll think, oh, this is why our ancestors liked this type of food. It was awesome. Paxton was acquitted. What's next for him? What a great question. Every time I go into remotes on bad people, like Paxton being acquitted, I don't think Paxton is acquitted because, for starters, when we do remotes, the remotes show that the DOJ is all over. Uh, the Department of Justice is all over Homeland Security. That's not public information. I was asked to go in as a remote viewer to Homeland Security. And when I went in and saw what Mayorkas, he was dealing with resistance and lack of cooperation from within Homeland, who did not respect his position. And DOJ had opened up a separate investigation into corruption into Homeland. But again, not public information. So, but it does lead me to feel at this time that sanity is returning. Yeah. So even if Paxton gets off in the state or he gets off on those charges, I want to tell people, based on what information I've been able to get just as a remote viewer, if I were him, I would not get too comfortable with the way the DOJ looks. And I can promise you that if he did a crime and the DOJ can prosecute it, he will be prosecuted. No one is going to get out of this DOJ alive who has committed any crimes. It's really zero tolerance, which I think is great. Yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll do the Empath's prayer. And oh, hi, Debbie. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Hi, Rose Blue. Florida just as bad as Texas? A lot of people think so. Yeah, and what's fun about sprouting beans is that all of the sudden you don't have the phytates, you don't have and you see them washed off. The things that inhibit gut absorption, which is why people get sick when they try to go vegan and then they get depressed because you're not absorbing the nutrition. You have binders and nutrient inhibitors. So the solution, our prehistoric ancestors knew how to do this. They used to have special stone bowls where they would just ferment things. And then sometimes they would drink the water. What was the water that they would drink from the fermented? Joe Tilson knows the answer because Joe Tilson and I talked about this once, I think. They would take the grains and then the water would flood. Say the water got into the oats and the hops and was bubbling away and you had to drain the water off. What would they do with that water, Joel? All that hops and all that barley got soaked in water. What would a good farmer do? That's right. It would begin to ferment from the yeast and then you would get beer. So the first beer discovered was from the Egyptians. And they would get floods, damn, the water got into and then it would start bubbling away. So you would take out your stores and you'd pour it off and you would say, that kind of smells good. And then you would drink it and you'd get a little tipsy. And then that was early fermentation. It was discovered accidentally, we think, when water was getting into the stores. And then they began experimenting not only with fermentation, which helped with digestion, but also in soaking the seeds. And then the color will change as the phytates, the things that resist absorption, they come off. You rinse them off. And then it starts to sprout and that begins to break up. They begin digesting the resistant protein. So by the time you have a sprout, all you have is the protein, some easy to digest carbohydrates, and the resistant starch is gone. You can saute it, maybe with a little kimchi also, which is too high in sodium. But the basic idea is that you now have something which a human digestion you can have it. And now you can also have sprouted tofus, which is a really great idea because people in America, Westerners, people from Northern Europe don't have the enzymes to digest tofu just because it wasn't part of our native food. But if you sprout the beans and destroy the resistant and make it easy to digest and then grind it up and make a tofu, then you won't have organic. Of course, you don't want to do genetically modified. Then you can enjoy that tofu. Yeah, the first beer. So these fermented foods, I don't drink alcohol because it makes me ill. Like not everybody can break down alcohol, right? Now with me, it got to be worse because I was in the formaldehyde poisoning with the labs, like a lot of medical students. We fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have to do cadaver dissection. So we had OSHA had to come in all the time to check the ventilators. We had to be in hazmat suits with ventilation to breathe when we would go in and do cadaver because there was just so much formaldehyde. And I think that is one of the things that contributed to it can damage your liver. And a lot of students had side effects, and it got to a point where some people had to actually drop out of school because of the formaldehyde. I wish we could. I wish they could do something about it, but yeah, alcohol is no good. Diverticulitis. Diverticulitis is a condition where the outpouches can become inflamed or irritated, and it's common, particularly as we age. And so we want soft, mushy food that's easy to digest, but we still want to have high cellulose, high fiber. And so what I recommend people do is like the purees, like squash purees and like butternut squash soup, those sorts of things, because they're loaded with really good fibers, but it's not going to be hard to digest. And we do see pancreatic dysfunction as we get older, right? The older you get, the less your pancreas works. And so we will also recommend digestive enzymes, less raw, more pureed vegetables and steamed. Avoid oil. Oil is, minimal oil. But I'm doing a cleanse right now, and I feel pretty good on it. Let's do the empath prayer together. Then we will talk about the remote views. We can blitz away. If people want to talk about natural medicine today, do something different, ask me questions as a physician. That's cool too. General information, that's cool. Whatever you guys want to do, it's your Sunday. I'm just here to facilitate the brunches. We get together once a week, and we have community conversation for those people who are just joining us. So we're talking about economic changes. These are based on your request throughout the week. If you go to the syllabus with the discussion today, it just tells you what people are talking about. Concerns about economic arrest leading to fascism, similar to pre-World War II Germany. This was something that an aging chancellor. This was something that you all have mentioned several times, that are concerned about the Biden presidency. It's similar to the Chancellor of Germany, who passed away, and he was weak because he was elder, and that's how Hitler was able to gain support. So one of the conversations people wanted was, how can we learn from what happened in Nazi Germany with the economic changes that are taking place, so that we don't fall into the same trap? That was one of the things you want to talk about. People also want to talk about Jack Smith and gagging Trump, Hurricane Lee, and anything else that comes up. Also, growing attention. People in Lahaina are still homeless, and it's looking bad for the Democrats. It could actually have an impact on what was once a Democratic stronghold, Hawaii. So Hawaii could be facing problems because of lack of appropriate response in Lahaina. So that's another thing. Well, libertarians, right? People are coming in and saying, screw funding for Ukraine, put the money into Lahaina. That's social programs that help. That's still social programs that they're calling for, right? So that's what you guys want to talk about. Obviously, if there's other things you guys want to talk about, we can do that too. But I think we'll do that. Do I have much to talk about in terms of the yeah, I just facilitate. You guys tell me what to remote view. You guys send me, you write in, where do you want to send me? And then we have a conversation about it. But the main remote view that people had concern about had to do with this rise in fascism. I had a couple conversations, yeah, about that and about how power is being centralized with Xi, with North Korea, and also with Russia, and they all have fascistic elements. Same with Netanyahu. And so people want to address, people are frightened that we're moving again towards fascism, and also fascists potentially being allied in the future. Because you do have this thing happening with China where Xi has total control, North Korea. And what's scary about North Korea is theoretically nuclear weapons with one person in control, deciding if he's going to push the button. That kind of central control that we see in countries that move towards fascism. You guys always come up with fun things to talk about. My job is just to facilitate and do the remotes, right? All right. Let's do the empath prayer together. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. Let's review pre-Nazi Germany. How is pre-Nazi Germany similar to the United States right now? I'll open it up because my history is not perfect, but the Weimar Republic. It was the Weimar Republic, and it fell in 1933. It was a parliamentary system, and the Nazis had 33% representation. They were the minority. And who was the head? The head person was the somebody died. Who was the head of the so the problem is that yeah, the guy dies. Anybody remember his name? Anyway, the point is that they had an aging guy in power. They had an aging guy in power, and he was the head of his party, which I guess would be the last. It was the equivalent of the Democratic Party, and people didn't want him to run for another term because they felt he was too old. But people felt like he had to because he was strong enough to beat Hitler. So he runs, but then he dies in office. And because Hitler got parliamentary representation of 33%, he demanded to be declared chancellor. He was declared chancellor, and then he takes over when Field Marshal Hindenburg, the president, died. Not exactly the same situation we're in, but I guess what people are saying is that because the economy is scary, because there's so much centralizing of power right now, do we think that the same thing could happen here? Because in order to stop the fascists, we're saying Biden has to run. Only Biden can beat. We have to go with Biden, and then that ultimately becomes something we regret if something happens to him before the election, or something happens that the ambassador of the DNC, right, the head of the DNC, our leader, and theoretically the leader of the free world, if something were to happen, does that make us vulnerable? Would America embrace a female president, a Black woman who's female president? Or is this going to cause people to become even more right wing? I don't know. We can, are we watching a potential crisis unfold where the soothsayers that are saying, "Oh my God, we're on the verge of it happening all over again. What if he dies before the next elections, 2 days before or 3 weeks before? Are we doomed?" But would people vote for Harris? What is our protection policy? Are we just going to cross our fingers and hope for the best? Or do we have to improve Harris's reputation? I think we go forward with Biden and we improve Harris's reputation. You don't reinvent the wheel. She'd make a fine president, but we have to go to rural areas. We have to start embracing the working poor, and we have to create a way of helping people understand who Kamala Harris is. That's my opinion. You may disagree, because I think she would be a great president. But how do we convince everybody else if they're afraid of this scenario? Because if the GOP makes it out like Kamala Harris is the most terrifying person in the world, then that's going to keep people from voting if they think that the president's going to die any minute. So what do? Do we get rid of Biden? No, he's not going to die. But the fear of it and the fear of Kamala Harris, that's what I'm talking about. Gavin Newsom is backing Biden. So, but if some young, sexy fascist shows up, right, the sexy new face of fascism, that's what people are afraid of. And then you have this older person representing the Democrats, and it's not as sexy and hot as the fascism of, say, somebody young and charming. We did the Empath's prayer, right? We did, right? So that was the conversation. Hope for the best and sit back and do nothing, or hope for the best and say, okay, so since we know that's the problem, let's do what we can to get Kamala out in rural areas and have her connecting with people, because that's the strategy of the GOP. That's the strategy. You're going to vote for this guy? What if he keels over tomorrow? Well, then you're going to have a crazy communist from India, right? A black communist from India, right? So how do we counter that, I guess, is another way of looking at it. All right, let's take a look. Let's have that conversation and see what we can do to make sure that we don't have to deal with that. She gets so much vitriol because she's extremely good at her job and she's a black woman. She's, she goes after the criminals. She had a file on Donald Trump because he was committing crimes in California. Trying to do land deals that are questionable. So she certainly was familiar with, I'm sure as a attorney general, she was familiar with him. And people want to get rich, and I want to get rich. I want to be able to do whatever I like. And the more money I get, the more I want. And the rules don't apply to me, right? I think that she's a attorney general that's going after them, right? Government worker. Oh my God. That actually believes in the Constitution. Oh my Lord. I think she's going to be president. I don't know if it's going to be after Joe completes it or what the story is, but they're saying that Kamala will probably become the president. You can see here the contract lies with Kamala. Queen of Wands is coming and she's getting a contract. I think she's Kali. I think she is Kaliman. I think she is the Fire Queen, gets the contract. I think the universe is doing things differently. The race, regarding the race, remember when Spirit when you ask the universe a question and it pops out an answer, it's trying to use human terms to communicate, which I just love that about the universe. But if you're asking, oh, good. Yes, but we got to get people 18 to 29 to vote. And that means we've got to leave the college campus and get to rural areas where kids 18 to 29 don't have jobs and they're stuck on the farm. And the problem with the Democrats is we think all young people go to college, and very few young people in rural areas are going to college. They're working on the farm or they're dealing with unemployment. And we've got to take poor rural areas back. The race, right? So when you're talking about an election, the Chariot is the election, the race. Regarding the race, smooth talking, smooth operator. Knight of Cups is coming. The Sword of Truth. Issues regarding health. Ten of Pentacles. Family legacies lead to the Sun coming out. Oh, there's issues here regarding his son being prosecuted and his health. So the Sun and the prosecution regarding his family legacy, also issues with his health. So they're going to use his son being prosecuted against him. Tower. He's very upset about what happened with Hunter. He's got the Tower over him. His son's having a really rough time of it. He wins. Biden will win. Biden wins the presidency. However, he may leave early or he may endorse Kamala for election because she's got the presidency here. Yes, justice prevails with his administration. He could choose to leave at one point. His enemies rejoice when he leaves, and then this karma card comes up with her. He may choose to step down before he completes his 4 years. We'll see. Doesn't sound like him. and I think his health is fine, but it could be also that he's prepping for her presidency. But I mean, she's going to have 8 years. He was tough with her because she really didn't have the experience. She'd been a senator, but she didn't have the experience he had had. So he basically said, sit, watch, and learn. That's what he said to her first year or so. But by second year, she's going to be very ready to take that job if something should happen to him. Yeah. Well, here's another important point that Joel Tilson makes, and that is this idea that you have all these new voters coming in that are Democrats. Yeah, people that want women to have a free choice. And now it's coming out that more babies, abandoned babies in Texas. So here's the problem. The problem is that the people that were trying to get abortions in some cases in Texas were rape victims, were being molested, and child abuse survivors who can't talk to anybody about what's going on. And they can't get an abortion. So now there's a rise in Texas of abandoned babies in trash dumpsters outside of clinics and hospitals. And it's become such a problem that in many cases the babies are not being found alive. So they have to create more drop-off stations in Texas for the babies. And also in some cases the babies have drug and alcohol addiction from homeless people, etc. And so we're talking about 10,000 unwanted and abandoned babies just since they banned abortion in Texas. So we're talking about a major health crisis that is about to fall on these states with these thrown away babies. But they didn't think about that. They didn't think about the girl who's freaked out and has mental health problems because of what's going on, and she doesn't want anybody to find out, and she hid her pregnancy, and now she put the baby in a bag and threw it in the trash and just wants this nightmare to go away, right? That's where she's at. She's not functioning right, and she didn't have anybody to go to for help. So they don't want anyone to see them at the fire department. They're dropping them off in front of the hospital emergency, but in some cases they're finding them in trash cans and everything else. So how is that policy more humane? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Well, the case that's coming up now is that the hospitals are complaining because they're finding them in the hospital dumpsters. So they're finding dead babies in hospital dumpsters. So I think what is also happening is that people are going to the hospitals and they're, giving birth, and then they're dumping their babies. They're leaving and dumping their babies, or they're throwing the babies out. It's terrifying. To me, it's horrifying. That to me would be horrifying. One of the women, when she saw the bag moving, and she saw the bag, she said, "Please, God, do not tell me there's a baby inside here." And she saw that it was a newborn baby. And she said, "Thank God this one's alive." She said that they took 2 out that were not alive. It's Texas, man. It's 120 degrees. And people just want this, maybe rape victims, children, they want this nightmare gone. This baby is a reminder of the nightmare, right? So it's another well-meaning disaster, right? All right, in flow. Can you please read on Canada's political future? I sure can. Sounds like a great idea. All right. So Canada, as you know, is going through some serious stuff. Trudeau's having some issues. The future of Canada is their major moneymaker is organics, nature, trees, renewable resources. The economy of Canada is extremely strong, and I see a woman in power. Kamala. I always pronounce it Kamala. Kamala. Like Camelot. Kamala. Not Kamala. I do Kamala. Entering into the time of strong female leadership in Canada, entrepreneurship and new green economy is coming in a really big way. It's kind of exploding in Canada. You can see here the green economy explodes, Ace of Wands, new entrepreneurship and new green economy. New laws pertaining to also wildlife. You guys are getting real strict over in Canada about the environment. I can see that. Look at that. Courts over issues with Canada is strong. Canada is strong. Here's your leadership, women. If you get a conservative in there, she's going to be like Hillary Clinton. She's going to she might be a pro-environmental Thatcher type. You know, you would get if it is a Tory, it's going to be more of our version of like a business conservative, a business Democrat, because you've got this really strong female energy. I would think another Democrat or a pretty liberal conservative would take over, because your cards for Canada are all about the green economy being a big part of your profits going forward. This is a question that's come up a lot that NAB is asking about, which is that Biden is doing a lot to take away student loan debt. One of the things he's going to do, I think they're going to start buying the debt back from companies that are screwing over the private loans, because they're erasing. If you work for the government, or like I worked in public health for 7 years, there are ways that you can also pay it off. But now the next thing is to try and get the government to pay off private loans. So say that you have student loans, but they're owned by a bank. You can appeal to have the government come in and wipe them out and pay off the debt for you. That may be another option that they're working on. I'll also take a look at housing for you. People are joking that Biden is our first Black president because his policies are, this is the first president that is doing things that actually are helping since Reagan. I mean, Obama did some great things, but he also made some mistakes, like in Libya. Whereas Biden, it has been extremely, and also Obama didn't do as much for the environment as Biden. Biden has been so aggressive on the green economy, and so aggressive on freeing up the loans for the students. I mean, it's been really remarkable. His policies have been very progressive. I'm very happy with them. But we can see going forward, it's all about creating stable economies. Here's where Biden's coming from. They want stable economies in rural areas of the United States that were hit by changes in the economy in the 80s and 90s. That Scranton, that's what he's talking about. I come from Scranton. So that is where he is. It's a Band-Aid from Biden's perspective. He wants industry. He wants for you to have a happy life in suburbia if you grow up in Scranton. It's all about industry. Industry. He wants industry. Knight of Pentacles. He wants stable economies so that Detroit comes back naturally. He has academics that are looking at it from an economic struggles in certain areas and how to revive certain neighborhoods. Six of Cups. This is also a card of community organizing or going back to the neighborhood. Six of Cups, to return back to that which you love. I think that they're going to communicate with different communities and try and find out what they need and work with local programs. It's like that program called The Place, the book place. What was it? Started in Los Angeles, where every child got a free book, and they drove around, and this is the place, and everybody got to read. And I think Oprah gave them a bunch of money, and they just focused on literacy. You want to learn to read, you want to like books, this is the place. This is the place to come and read and have community, right? So you have this energy coming in over Biden where he's working with local community leadership that is on the grounds so that they can create a dynamic way of solving problems. Two of Cups to reach across the aisle, but also Two of Cups to go back to the neighborhood. Academics, going back to the neighborhood. Six of Wands, building new infrastructure, new local economies to help neighborhoods. This is also coming per request by people who grow up in those neighborhoods. This is what resources we don't have. These are what resources we need. Again, Biden comes with the Magician card. Biden is so strong. He is a Republican's worst nightmare. I'm telling you. Look at industry. Remember how Trump kept saying jobs, I want jobs. No, he didn't create jobs. He created more money and more of a wealth gap for the CEOs that were funding his campaign. This guy's creating jobs. Magician enters again in the seventh house. Immediate sense of self is, I am in control of the situation. I don't see senility. I don't see an old dying man. I see a strong man who's in control of the situation. He's unbeatable. Look at his advisor. This is his advisors. Academia, intellectuals, leadership. This is him going to the neighborhoods. Here's his re-election. Look at this. His future. He gets his wish. Here's his health. He's not sick. Here's his opposition. You know what it feels like? It almost feels like they're afraid this guy is so powerful. They're afraid that he and his academic advisors are going back to the neighborhood and making deals. This is why the GOP is in crisis right now. Exactly. Thank you, Kay Travel. Hi, Kay. I miss you. She is a good friend of mine. I'm glad you're here. Exactly. So now he's talking about, we got to start taxing a minimum 25% off the profits. Take the money, man. So you can imagine that these folks are not happy with Biden right now. Yes, I want to see the answer to that. The taxation. Thank you, Kay, very much. Oh, you guys wanted to talk about Lee. I don't know if we have time to do that today. Anybody know any latest news on Lee? I guess we can, well, we have time. Absolutely 100% yes, because it's good for the community. If I go to Hershey Corporation and I say, you're going to pay 25% taxes on your we're going to increase it to 25%, but the money's going to stay local. Your own neighborhood in Hershey, Pennsylvania, it's going to look great. But we're a certain percentage we promise you will go towards local communities. The park that you want, well, as long as, so in plain words, we're going to tax the major corporations in Detroit, but a lot of the money is going to be state. It's going to go to the states. It's going to go local. That's the promise of Biden, which eases to some extent the pain if you own Hershey's or own Coca-Cola or so. They want the money to stay in this. Look, I actually, to some extent, agree with them. If it's their profits and it's their state and their community, of course, the money should first and primary to take care of their schools, their local institutions, and that's a huge part of this discussion. I'll show it to you. But if the CEOs are taught it's going to be great for we're going to build a community with your taxes. We're building a community around Hershey's around that you can be proud of, with clean streets and paved roads. Oh, well, since you put it that way, going back to the neighborhood to build a partnership. What the CEOs are afraid of. Look at that. We don't want to go to jail. We don't want to be no, we're talking about working in partnership to rebuild our institutions, to rebuild our infrastructure with corporate cooperation. Well, as long as the money's going towards it will, then we agree. Six of Pentacles. So the solution is that it has to be to some extent, it has to be a cooperative partnership between them and the local communities. It goes back to what Biden had said before and what he has said in his speeches about working with local communities, whether it's in Selma, Alabama, or somewhere in the middle of West Virginia. It doesn't matter. If you have existing structures that are working. It's also why the GOP is collapsing, right? Now they're at civil war. Why are they at civil war? Because he's giving money to anybody that wants to be involved in this. And that means that he's a threat to rural areas. Remember when we did the remote on Lindsey Graham? Y'all remember what Lindsey Graham said? Do y'all remember what Lindsey said? He was crying in the remote. Always crying. Very emotional person. He was trying to talk to people. He was trying to talk to the GOP. He said, listen to me. Listen to me about why I support Trump. We're never going to take the rural areas again, right? If we don't vote for Trump, we'll never win another presidency because we can't get the people to vote in rural areas. We're going to lose the Senate. Oh, we're going to lose the Senate. We're going to lose the presidency if we can't get Trump, right? It's this idea of apathy, that the people are apathetic. What's the point? Oh, we're going to go vote for Trump. Well, yeah, and vote down ballot. Get those senators. We need 2 red senators in Georgia. Vote down ballot, right? But if they're not there to show up to vote, then they're not there to vote for the presidency, and they're not there to vote down ballot. And that is what Lindsey Graham was saying when he was talking about strategy. So Biden knows what he knows. Oh, no problem. You guys are afraid of going to prison. I don't want you to go to prison. I want to rebuild your neighborhoods with your co-op, which is going to make you look great. And then we can get people back to work, feeling good, etc. But we're going to tax you. And that's how he gets it through. Well, it's so much a part of what I believe as a progressive and as a liberal that I can't see any reason not to support it, because politics has to be at a local level. And you have to start at a local community level. And if Hershey's or Microsoft is a part of your neighborhood, then they need to be actively involved in contributing financially and actively involved in making sure that their employees have good health care, have good living conditions, have safe roads, etc. And they can feel good knowing that their tax dollars are staying local predominantly. Doesn't mean that they don't still pay their federal. But what he's saying here is we can't do like we did with NAFTA and walk out on our neighborhoods. That is what Biden is saying in the remote, and I actually agree with him. Oh, thank you, Sam. Good to see you here. Thank you, Sam. Okay, you guys want to do one more? You guys want to do one more? Oh, okay. Samilia, you want to do one more with Samilia? Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are having a good time. Well, always let me know what you guys want to talk about. Like I put up a thing like I am a remote viewer, send me where you are and want me to. And then I do the remote views, and then on Sunday we have the discussion. I never got that Biden was going to lose. Every time the cards show him as very strong, and I think that it's terrifying if you're a Republican. And now he's starting to seduce some of the Republicans because they're like, well, we kind of like your community. Get back to the community approach. I think it's good for our bottom line, and the money is being reinvested. So he's now saying, but it's good for business. You see what he's done is he's now splitting the normal people that are not crazy that are GOP. So now McCarthy is on his way out, right? Right, Joel. It's about corporate welfare. So they get cut, they're living high on the hog, but the people's wages are so depressed that they have to apply for welfare, which means that you and I have to buy their groceries because Mr. Money doesn't want to pay his employees. And that becomes the ethical problem. Yeah. So Joel is saying that the CEO, Mary Barra, got 29 million in bonuses. So that's absolutely ridiculous. So what Biden is saying is that you have to pay people a living wage, and 25% of that bonus would go towards federal, but predominantly local resources. Yeah. Well, think about what Detroit would look like if the CEOs of the car companies were reinvesting in Detroit. You see what he's saying in the remote? Don't you think Detroit would look a hell of a lot different if those profits had gone into reinvest? And what's that going to do to neighborhoods? People are going to want to live there, and people are going to want to buy houses, and people are going to want to start businesses and raise children there because you have invested. This is what Biden is saying. You've invested in the neighborhood. Yeah, workers get nothing, and that's not, that's just not cool. I'm going to do one more. Yeah, we started late. Somebody had a really good one. Oh, Samilia, about anti-diversity. Well, people aren't afraid of Black people anymore, right? That's the running joke. In the 70s, Nixon wanted people to be afraid of Black people because part of his policy wanted people to stop talking about the Vietnam War. So he started a policy, and then Hollywood got involved. Black people are spooky, right? So Beretta, all these shows were about get the Black people. The Black people are scary, right? But then time went on, and new administrations came and gone, and the new generation is no longer scared of Black people because they started making new TV shows. So now we have to come up with a new group of people to be scared of. So now we're afraid of the immigrant. Now we're afraid. Now they're creating propaganda about immigrants and transgender people, right? But it's always the same thing. They have to have an enemy. Well, Well, it never go. Anti-Semitism and anti-Black is never going to go out of style, right? It's always popular, but now they're focusing more on, attacking transgender. All right, let's see about that, Samilia, about the attacks and what's going to happen with that. No, they're going to be dismantled. 5 of Swords, taking the power away. Just talk science with them. Angry and frustrated. We have a monthly show we do with Tania Costa. She's a transgender activist and educator. And we just answer people's questions straight up. If they have any questions, why be defensive? Just answer people's questions. But you take the sword away from them. They respond angry and frustrated. There's an economic incentive. Again, it comes from the churches. In the end, we are fine as a nation. 9 of Pentacles would denote us safe in our gardens, financially secure in the garden. So basically, we will come through this. We will come out of this. We will come through this. Towards a more perfect union, right? Isn't that the whole... We're stuck with each other. We may not always agree politically. We may not always like each other. People may be annoyed with me for whatever reason, but we are family, whether we want to admit it or not, right? And we just have to kind of make it work. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining me for this amazing brunch. You are all awesome. If you're trying to get in for a tarot reading with me, or you need me to go in as a remote viewer, you can find my information in the description box of this video. If you need just a 5-minute quick question, I think they're $25, and it's through Wizio. And you just send me the question, and then I make a 5-minute tape for you. And it's usually back to you within 3 to 5 business days. I think it usually takes. All right, so be kind to all so that all can be kind to you. Also, if you want to continue to support the channel, think about memberships, and also check out all the amazing merch that Debbie Brady was kind enough to create for us. All right, be well, everyone. We'll see you next time.